Hi, Healing Overflow with Dr. Toy. This is Dr. Toya Jones, and it's so wonderful to see y'all again. I hope you're doing well. I hope all of my Pittsburgh folks are doing well. We're snowed in here in Pittsburgh, so I don't know where you're watching us from, but that's why you see a difference of my background and where I am. I'm usually in the studio, but not today. I'm snowed in. So my guest was so gracious to say, all right, well, let's just do it remotely. And so we're going to carry on. But I'm so glad to have her. But before I have her introduce herself and I introduce her, we got to get some business done. You know, I have Ask a Therapist. Anytime you have a question for me, the therapist, write into me, type on that computer, and let me know what your question is. Y'all have wonderful questions. And if I answer them on air, you get that Starbucks coffee gift card, cocoa, coffee, apple cider. It's all good right now because it's cold outside here in Pittsburgh. So it's wonderful that you are back. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Let's get straight to my guest. This is my buddy, my fellow social worker, Andrea.
Thank you so much for having me. I loved talking with you last time, and I'm super grateful to be back.
Welcome back. You're the first guest that has come back. Isn't that really cool?
That's a huge
I know,
honor.
I know. I had to have you back. I just want you to introduce yourself to the folks that don't know you, talk about you, and I have to make sure you talk about your books because I know that you won't, and you'll be you'll be humble. And I'm like, no, talk about your books. I've read them both. They're amazing and awesome. So
Thank
please
you.
tell the audience about yourself and what you've been up to.
Yeah, so my name is Andrea Flack-Wetherald, and like Dr. Toy said, my background is in social work. I took a left turn that kind of surprised everybody to produce and perform comedy, and just have loved that so much. Improv in particular is something that is not only fun but deeply meaningful. And the reason why it's meaningful for me is that intersection with um, a lot of the same values from social work. Improv is about building something out of nothing with the other people on your team. In order to do that well, there's an awful lot of vulnerability, an awful lot of collaboration, an awful lot of listening, having to be resilient when we get it wrong on stage or with each other and need to collaborate anyway. I could go on and on about that. And honestly, the fact that I could go on and on about it is how I started this business by accident, by just never shutting up about how meaningful improv was to me. And then people started asking me to come to their office. After a while, it occurred to me that I should really be bringing my social work background into my work and using some of the things that I had the incredible privilege of learning when I was working in a primary social work setting, when it comes to the trans-theoretical model, when it comes to motivational interviewing and understanding what is happening inside someone's brain when they're trying to change. And how do we bring evidence-based methods and practices into the conversation around culture change? So taking things that I learned in a clinical setting and moving them into more of an office setting. My work now is completely centered around brave communication. I've pinpointed that is usually the thing that makes change happen fastest, is when people are equipped to have real conversations and they've learned how to stand in their integrity when they disagree. So
That
that's
is
my
another
background.
podcast. Like I have to listen, you might be a 3-time guest because that topic, having brave conversations, using the models, the MI model, and all the things that we are taught as a social worker is so interesting. And putting it all together to me is like a mastermind. You're like this mad scientist with bubbles and smoke. It goes together so well. So that's good for those of us, that have trouble, with conflict and having those conversations where you want to approach someone like maybe your boss or your significant other. All of your techniques are super funky, super cool. And so that might be another one. I'm setting up another one.
Well, I love it, and I'll be honored to do it. My company is called the Center for Mindful Improv Thinking. The framework that I have created for using skills from improv and skills from mindfulness practice in order to have those difficult conversations and in order to honor ourselves and our boundaries and also our scene partners, as I call them. Um, that's called the Mindful Improv Thinking Framework. And so as you mentioned, I've written 2 books about this. The newest book is called Mindful Improv Thinking: Build a Culture of Resilient Trust. It's a quick read. It's very tactical. What are the skills we need to do this well? And my first book is called The Funny Thing About Forgiveness: What Every Leader Needs to Know About Improv, Culture, and the World's Least Favorite F Word. And that one goes a lot deeper into the heart of, um, essentially, there's so much to say, but essentially, how do we set those brave conversations up for success by doing the inside work that we need to do for ourselves first? So we're not
Exactly.
choking the life out of those brave conversations because we tell ourselves, I need this person to change, or I need an apology or something from them in order to be okay for myself.
Yes.
So we do that inside work first. And then we're able to enter into that conversation in a way that opens doors that wouldn't otherwise be openable.
Yes. So your first book I read in a week. The second book I read in 24 hours. So it's a page turner, y'all. So get it. We'll put all the information on how you can get Andrea's books. You're going to want them after you hear what she has to say and how we're going to walk through this. I asked Andrea to come on the show this time to talk about. Sorry, everybody. I got some kind of allergy tickle in my throat. So, oh my goodness. All right. I think I'm done choking now because I'm talking about just things that go on around us. Is completely out of our control. So what's going on in the country? Can I control any of that? What's going on in the family? What's going on around holiday time? The stress of the end of this semester, the stress of my career, the stress of my family, the stress of the snow, whatever it may be. I can't control it. And so what I've noticed with myself and even with my clients is our imagination takes over. If we can't control something, our brain says, well, you know what? I'm going to keep on trying. So thank
Mhm.
you so much. I'm just going to configure this a little bit. And then I'm going to say, what if, what if, what if, what if? And what happens is we start ruminating on all of the negativity, all of the things we can't change, to the point where we're in this dark hole. Literally feels like this is happening and we can't dig ourselves out. And it's all from the imagination. It's nothing that really happened. The stuff that happened that's causing us distress has already happened or is in this state of happening, and we're in this disequilibrium. We can't get back down the solid ground. And what happens is, in Healing Overflow family, you know what I'm talking about, the frontal lobe. Remember, we talked about that quite a bit on the show. The frontal lobe says, well, you know what? I got to get out of here because I don't know what the rest of the brain is doing. Y'all talking too much and all this worry. I just got to get out of here. And we can't balance ourselves back using the frontal lobe. So when I heard about an experience, I actually went through a family. I went through this imagination. I don't know what you call it. So, Andrew, you got to let me
Breath
know.
and Imagination Workshop.
It was dope.com. Like, that's because I'm one that
I
will
need you to put that on my LinkedIn.
hashtag dope.com. Because you said we're not going to escape our imagination. We're going to use what is causing us the distress to actually turn it around and calm our little brains down and calm our bodies down. We're going to use the imagination as the weapon against the imagination. I was like, what? So it worked for somebody like me. My mind is so busy and so strong that I'll fight the process. If I know what you're doing, I'm like, but I can figure out how to do this and like find a loophole to, to stress myself out again. This was so fun that it made me forget that I was actually trying to calm myself down and really balance myself using my imagination. So I want you to explain to the listeners and viewers, like, what the heck is Toya talking about right now? What is it that you're doing? Because I just
Sure.
made you into a voodoo priestess.
I mean, maybe add that to my LinkedIn also. I don't know. I don't know if that's going to alienate my client base or what. But
Probably a little bit.
so what Toya is referring to is this breath and imagination workshop that I offered ahead of the Thanksgiving holiday. And a lot of what you said, was the impetus for offering it then. I know that the holidays are stressful, especially in an election year. We don't agree, and that can be really stressful. It can be really scary to feel like you don't belong in your own family or something. And this sort of thing can happen regardless of who you voted for. Um, and it can cause us all kinds of distress. So insert whole, I'm sure everybody can imagine, and has personally experienced what it feels like to just have your worries running away with you. So the Breath and Imagination Workshop is designed to help us regain some creative control in those situations. Firstly, by building a productive relationship with our imaginations. Everything that exists in the physical world started with imagination first. So the level 0 here is helping people to understand how incredibly powerful their imaginations are. It's easy to lose sight of this because we take so much for granted. We take for granted that I have this mug. I don't need to ladle my coffee into my mouth, or even the fact that coffee exists. Somebody imagined what might happen if I took this off of this tree and I dried it and then roasted it and then crushed it up and then ran hot water over it. Do you see what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
everything that we just take for granted exists because our ancestors imagined what might happen if. And so, we talk often when it comes to imagination, but we put people on the moon, and I'm like, we put coffee in my cup. Like,
That is why I'm here before you
I am
today.
here today. I just wanted to talk about coffee. but but you see the point is that you can look around you and see evidence of how powerful imagination is.
Mhm.
You can also look around you and see how powerful negative imagination is, and the kind of hate and the kind of fear and the kind of hurt we can cause when we use that tool in a fear connected way rather than a
Mhm.
love connected way. Maybe that's a fourth whole podcast episode. But the purpose of the Breath and Imagination Workshop is to help us notice what is happening with this mind movie. It's running all the time. Both your breath and your imagination will happen all the time, no matter what. But when you choose to get present with them, you can regain some creative control. So, step one is notice, what am I thinking about? What am I thinking about? Just last night, we got some news that my grandmother is probably going to make her transition into the afterlife in the next any time now.
Mm.
And I was driving with my son when I got this information, and I just flashed to, what will the funeral be like?
Yeah.
What I there's family drama, we don't need to get into it. What will it be like? Well, I'm like imagining arguments that have not even happened yet, imagining family members I haven't seen for years, just you know what this is. I see your head nod.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
we all do it, just the projection of what might happen. And all of a sudden my son says from the backseat, "Oh, mommy, we have to do that." And what I was imagining was a full-on shouting match in a church. So I'm like, what is he, like, so he's coming back into the moment on the radio, is talking about some winter wonderland thing in Northeast Ohio. And I was like, okay. And I just told him, I was like, Cooper, I'm having some trouble staying in the moment, buddy. Can we talk about some things that we're thankful for? And he was like, oh, that's easy, mom. I'm really thankful for these big fluffy snowflakes. I was like, out of the mouth of babes.
Oh my goodness.
So I I say this to say I teach and share this from the trenches, not from a pedestal. This is
Mm.
work that I need too. It is hard when your fight or flight mechanism is activated. It is hard to realize my imagination is taking me to somewhere that's not helpful. It doesn't help me to
Mhm.
imagine shouting at someone I haven't seen for years in a church. I'm probably not going to do that. So
Mhm.
what might be helpful? Um, the other thing that I mentioned in that workshop is that so often we have such a fear based or such a solution focused relationship with our imagination. Solve my problems, or help me imagine the worst case scenario. That's the only thing we do. But what if we started practicing joyful imagination? What
Wow.
if we start just practicing what it feels like to use our imaginations in a joyful way?
Mhm.
I really believe that we can create a future that we're not so afraid of, but our ability to do that hinges upon whether or not we can connect well with the people around us and not just the people that we agree with.
Yes,
And so our imagination is a big part of that.
I particularly love this because um, it's rooted in research and it sounds frou frou, and it's not frou frou. It's actually, there's some science in this. Breathing always brings us back down, lets our frontal lobe get connected. Mindfulness, there's a lot of science behind that. But what you mentioned is it's a concept in CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, y'all. All my CBT students, y'all should just went in an uproar when you heard her talk, because you're saying, I am taking notice of what I'm thinking, and I'm not just saying, I'm going to change the thoughts just like that. It's going to be so easy, but I'm going to use my imagination to produce joy, which is the emotion. So I'm altering what I'm thinking, and I'm concentrating, and I'm saying, thoughts, I need you to go this way. And we're going to practice doing this. So I now produce these emotions of joy and some kind of peace and some kind of relief. So that is CBT foundation and concept. So I loved it when I heard it. I was like, oh,
That's great to hear.
it's
And
wonderful.
yeah, you're touching on something that is really important to me because what I never want to be about is fake positivity. I never want to be telling people, well, just don't be negative.
Right.
Just don't be afraid then. Like there are reasons why people feel afraid. And I'm not saying that there's nothing to be afraid of, but I am saying that we can participate in a story of restoration. We can participate in building something that's less scary if we're able to connect with the people around us, if we're
Exactly.
able to get present within ourselves and sort out fact from fiction in our imagination, you know?
Talk about the news, Andrea. You said something about the
Mm.
news when we were chatting it up, and I was like, don't forget to say that on the podcast. Like,
Okay,
do
I
you
don't know that I would
remember?
have naturally made that jump, so I'm glad that you asked that question. What I said to Dr. Toy about the news is that right now, the way that news works is not that there are uh, people who are thinking, let me only write this when it's a fully finished story, when it's thoughtful and balanced, when I've had time to be able to hear from both sides of this thing. Let me make sure, and then I'll put that out there, and this will be helpful for people, and this will be educational. What's happening is that our attention has been commoditized. And I want to be very clear right now because I am not interested in spreading conspiracy theories. I am not saying that there are people, I know some people have nefarious intentions. I am not saying you can't trust anything in the media. It's run by people that just want to watch the world burn. That's not what I'm saying. What I am saying is that on both and all sides are 24-year-old people on a timeline who are only going to get paid if they produce content. And that content needs to grab our attentions so that we will click, so that we will refresh the page. That is how they get advertising revenue. So, what I just want people to remember is that your piece is too precious to be tied to somebody else's editorial timeline. Like it shouldn't matter that somebody just needed to get something published so that they could get paid. That's not content that's necessarily helpful for you to be consuming around the clock. So for me, I agree that it is important to have an idea of what's going on in the world and in our country, but it's not so urgent that I can't wait until I am in alignment, that I can't wait until I am at a level place emotionally to where I can look at a story and be like, all right, well, they didn't immediately respond to our request for comment. How many times do you read that? Here's what that means. I sent an email so I could count it as like I tried to reach out. And then I freaking published this thing because I needed to.
Yeah,
So there's
wow.
not a balanced perspective here.
Yeah.
We do not need to be nearly as afraid of each other as we think we do, and I won't get all down into this right now. But my whole thing is that if your heart and your emotional peace and your imagination, if you're feeding your imagination with the constant barrage of news available to you, you don't get push notifications because someone has something that you need to hear for your well-being or for you to be informed. You get push notifications because the app knows that that's a good way to get more watch time.
Absolutely.
I would really love for every one of your listeners to watch The Social Dilemma. Have you watched this, Dr. Toy?
I haven't.
I am telling you right now, and this is something to watch with your kids too.
Okay.
Your kids are old enough. I got to watch it again to make sure it's okay for mine. But the people who invented infinite scroll, like the way that news works like social media now, and most of
Mhm.
us get our news from social media is the reason why this is pertinent here. It's just important to understand that these features were not created by the devil incarnate in order to, cause these major social problems, but our attention has been commoditized.
Mhm.
And so now it is the situation that people are trying to get in front of you and get in front of you and get in front of you because this is the only way that it makes money. This is the only way that people get
Wow.
paid, not because
Wow.
they have something valuable to say.
I thought that was so important when you said it. It sounded even better the second time I'm hearing it from you. And I noticed that I take news breaks because I'll start shoveling that stuff in my brain and it causes me to worry about things that I can't control. It's like, oh no, what's happening in the country? Oh no, what's happening across the seas and in other nations? And oh no, next thing you know, I'm clicking on things. I'm waking up, reading the news headlines right on my phone. They pop up, and that's the first thing I'm reading. And I'm like, what? What? You know, and it's toxic. It's
It's so
toxic going into
toxic,
the brain.
Toya. It's so toxic. You would never allow someone from friggin' Target to walk into your home first thing in the morning, slap you in the face, and say, "You need better jeans." You would so
You would
don't let
never
your
let it happen.
phone be the
Yes.
weird
Yep.
portal that, like, allows people to be like, "Hey, the end
Hmm.
is near."
Yeah, yeah. This
It's
is what you're going to control. This is what you're going to concentrate on all day, which you just read as soon as you woke up. So I love the fact that you're saying, no, this is in your hands. You have control over what goes into your brain. You have
feed
control.
your imagination well. Feed
Yes.
it well, use it wisely.
Brilliant. So I asked Andrea to give us some ways to feed our imagination well, to bring ourselves some joy and some peace when we're unsettled, even to preemptly get in front of this thing before we get distressed and unsettled. And I
Mhm.
had a ball at at this. I said, "What's it called? Breath and mindful and imagination." Wait, let me write it down and get it right because I need you to come on and do it again. So Andrea said, "Of course I'll do that." And she brought some tricks and tools. Y'all know I love Dr. Toy tips. These are now Andrea tips. I'm handing over the mic for today. This is Andrea tips. You can and feel free to start with whatever you want. I love the box breathing, y'all, but you start with
This
what
is
you
what I
want.
was gonna say. I think to me the logical progression is first to figure out how can I get present with my imagination. And again, what I mean by that is notice what I'm thinking about
Mhm.
and not shame myself and not beat myself up if I'm future tripping, if I'm, imagining something horrible, not beat myself up, but just gently be aware. Hey, that's not helping. That might not happen. The future is not written in stone because life is improv. We're making it up as we go. We're building it together right
Yeah.
now. Mic drop, but I'll pick it back up because then it's like, how can I calm myself down? This is why your breath is so helpful. That's why the workshop is called Breath and Imagination. The relationship between these two things, again, they'll both happen no matter what, but we can really claim some inner peace for ourselves and some creative control when we choose to get present with them.
Mm.
So, this is why I love the breathing exercises. Box breathing, if you're not familiar, is breathing in for 4, holding for 4, exhaling for 4, holding for 4. And I love it because it's not a natural way to breathe at all. And so it kind of forces my attention onto the breath. And that practice, that it's not that, well, it sounds like you're saying that it is about breath, that breath itself can calm your prefrontal
Mhm.
cortex and help
Mhm.
you to find your center. Um, in addition, learning to get present, just learning to pull your attention into the moment, out of the past. You're not raking yourself over the coals for anything that's happened in the past and beating yourself up or anyone else. And you're not panicking about the future. You're just right here in this moment, finding your safety right here in this moment. That is so powerful and so helpful.
Yes.
Box
Yes.
breathing helps me do that because it takes all my focus to breathe in for 4, hold for 4, exhale for 4,
I'm
hold for 4.
concentrating so much. Let's do it together, Healing Overflow family. I need y'all to practice so that you do this on your own. Now, you don't have to draw the box, but I like to do that because it gives my mind something else to do. But you can literally sit in class, sit at your job, sit on a bus, sit in a restaurant, and do this box breathing. When you feel somatically, start feeling your body doing this thing, your fist, you're like, there's an orchestra in
Mhm.
your brain. Take time to breathe. So we're just going to do it quickly. Okay. So inhale, hold it, exhale, hold it. Okay. I lied. One more. Inhale, hold it, exhale, hold it. And just notice how you're feeling in your body. I feel a little bit more relaxed too, even though I'm always relaxed with my friend Andrea. I feel even more relaxed. I love it. What else you got in that bag?
So the next thing that I love to come back to is EFT tapping, emotional freedom technique. Um, Maybe people know this already, but just to be clear, if these are new to you, these are not my proprietary anything. I did not invent these. These exist in the world. I just love to use them and share them as helpful tools. So EFT tapping involves tapping in acupressure points. Um, to help pull you into the moment. And it's a very forgiving technique. There are several. I got between your eyes, on the top of your head, here below your eye is one, here. I'm wearing a bulky sweater, so this next one's gonna be harder to tell, but my collarbone is right here. So right here, just a little, like an inch below your collarbone. Mm-hmm. And then there's another one, again, my bulky sweater, but on your rib cage, maybe like a hand below your armpit. Ooh, that I learned at my chiropractor this is also like a lymphatic point, and I don't know. This is feeling like important right now.
Oh,
So
I'm
so these are the
ticklish, so I can tickle myself. That's how ticklish. I was like,
so it's a very forgiving technique. If you don't get it exactly right, that's fine. Oh, and I forgot one of the most important ones here. This is a good place to start. So when I learned EFT tapping, the person who taught me said that the usual flow is that you start saying, even though something, even though I'm feeling really worried right now and I'm disappointed because I've been trying to worry less, I fully and completely love and accept myself. That's the way that I was taught. I love that. Even though I shouted at my daughter and I vowed I would be more patient, I fully and completely love and accept myself. So that's a good one. One that I don't know if created, I feel like weird saying that. A thing that came to me that I have enjoyed doing is making yes and statements. So, yes and is the foundation of improv. This is how we build a scene. You accept what is, and you add something of your own on top of it. No erasure. You accept what is, and you have the creative control to add something
that's so
on top of
forgiving.
it.
I love
Ugh,
it.
ugh.
Give us an example. I like
Soul
this.
butter. I don't know why I said that. I immediately regret it. Um, so as I do the tapping, yes, there are things that are outside of my control. And it is safe for me to do my part, not everyone's part.
Ah, ooh.
Yes, I am imperfect. Yes, I feel insecure about showing people my imperfections. And it is safe to be imperfect in front of people. Yep, that person pisses me completely the F off. And it is safe to build things with people who are imperfect. If I
Mhm.
wait forever for perfect collaborators, I'm going to miss my opportunity to do something I feel proud of. Yes, this is seeing things be more just and more fair is taking longer than I would like. And things happen in their own perfect time. Whatever it is for you,
I
acknowledging
love
that
it.
there's not any hiding,
Awesome.
not any erasing of what's true, just pairing with deep truth.
Yes. Accepting what's there, not trying to push it out, but saying, okay, I see you. I know I'm
Mhm.
thinking that thought. I'm going to take it and say, okay, you're here. And then I'm going to say, and, no,
Mhm.
not but, and
And
this also can, two things can be true and real in the same space at the same time.
and this is important for so many reasons. It's important for our imagination, and one of the things that really trips people up when they're trying to take better care of their imagination is this fear that choosing to anchor into optimism is relinquishing accountability or relinquishing no accountability. I think that's
Hmm.
the
Hmm.
hugest piece. I said and like there was this whole other thing, but I think that's a huge part of it
That's
for
it.
people.
Yeah.
We don't want there to be compassion if it causes us to not be able to hold people accountable if there needs
Yes.
to be accountability.
That's
That is
good.
not what anybody here is suggesting.
Hmm.
We can have compassion and accountability. Somebody can be wrong and valuable.
Yes. Good stuff.
Yeah,
Okay.
we wanna hold both together.
I can hear the listeners and viewers like, well, I got to make sure I'm doing it right because we do this whole criticism and am I doing it right? How long do I tap? Is there a right or wrong way to do it? Should I be doing it like the way you just showed us, or should I tap 5 times?
Here's the thing that I will say. It doesn't matter necessarily what order you go in. Everybody that I've ever seen teach it suggests that you start here. I don't know if there's a science reason for that or not. But there's not a wrong way to do it in terms of order or length of time tapping. It's what feels good to you. There is a wrong way to do it if it turns into self punishment. I noticed I taught my daughter this and she was banging on herself. I was like, hey, gentle.
You gotta be good to
You don't,
you.
yeah, you don't got to
Yeah.
pound it in there.
Yeah.
Like, we're gently inviting the truths in. We're
Yeah.
not pounding them in.
Get
Okay.
in there. We're not doing that. Okay.
No, we're being gentle with ourselves.
Thank you for that because I know folks, if you're anything like me, you're like, am I doing it right? Yes, you're doing it beautifully, excellently. It's correct. All
Mhm.
right, wonderful. Wonderful.
So once we've gotten present with our imaginations, the second piece is shifting the story a little bit. And so just like we were doing yes and with the tapping, we're going to yes and our imaginations too. Because it's not the case that you're imagining what you're imagining for no reason, right? It's not the case that you're future tripping and there's not a single grain of truth anywhere in the thing that you're fearing. It just is the case that you know what you know and not more than that.
Ah,
And so it's important for us to separate fact from fiction. That's not always a thing that we're emotionally able to do in that moment or have time to do in that moment while you're at work or in class or whatever. So, one pro tip here is to not assume that there's going to be a time that you're like, you know what? I have 30 minutes. Now's a good time for doing the real stuff in my soul basement that I need to get to. That's probably not gonna happen unless
right.
you literally get this little guy out, put it on your calendar. If it sounds silly, I'm telling you it's not though. Plan a time to light a candle and have an Epsom salt bath with your journal and write down things that you know are true.
Right.
Plan a time to get out a sheet of paper and draw a line down the middle of it and write, these are things that are my job. These are things that are the universe's job / God's job / the ensemble's responsibility beyond mine. Okay? Plan a time to honor your imagination by realizing that it's not that it's full of lies. It's just full of projections.
Mhm.
Okay? And so plan a time to do that.
Yes.
You'll have a more joyful time and an easier time with using your imagination to conjure things, not to conjure, to imagine things that are good. Since everything starts with imagination first, let's imagine the conversation going well.
Mhm.
Let's not imagine that no conversation needs to happen. This is what it is. We're not changing our imagination to pretend that everything's fine, but we're changing to be like, what if I confronted this person and what they said was, thank you for saying that to me.
Yeah. Imagine the best instead of the worst, because that's
Yeah.
what we go to. We go to the worst.
And people think that what I'm saying is either we imagine doomsday or we imagine a utopia. And that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying we imagine real life going well. Let's imagine that, I tell this person, I felt hurt when you said this to me. Do you have time that we could connect on this? Because I don't want it to balloon into something it doesn't need to be. And they
Exactly.
say, thanks for letting me know. Yeah. Can we get lunch? And then at lunch, they say, man, I had no idea. I've never heard that perspective before. Thank you
Yeah.
for saying that to me. Because
I
I'm
didn't
here to
even
tell
know I
you,
hurt you. I didn't even know that
yeah,
happened.
I
Yeah.
didn't even know. And maybe it's even like on some of these political issues. And this is where I know this is not what we're here to talk about, and we'll put a button in it for the next time when we talk about brave conversations. But this is just to say that using these methods that I outline in the Mindful Improv Thinking book, I have had soul restoring, imagination hygiene inducing conversations with people that help me know this is not froofy bullcrap. It is real that when you confront someone with love and integrity and openness, they can show you the best of who they can be and not just the most defensive version of themselves. And then we both walk away. That person walked away able to learn something. And I walked away not convincing myself I had an enemy.
Yeah.
Both of us
That's
are
so
there.
important. And you know what? I'm glad that you said I'm going to say this, because this is what a lot of us, at the university, a lot of students, a lot of folks out in the community, we're talking about, post election, because we have friends and family that didn't vote for who we voted for, vice versa, and they feel uncomfortable. We feel uncomfortable. And when you're sitting around that holiday table, you're like, pass me the turkey. You're just feeling the tension and animosity. And somebody might say something that's offensive, and you're like, how do I talk to Aunt Sherry about that, or how do I talk to my dad, and how do I so that was so good and so right on time. Like, yeah, we can have those brave conversations, and it doesn't have to end in an argument, or I don't talk to Aunt Sherry anymore and she's not coming to the next holiday dinner. How about that? It doesn't have to be like that. We can imagine something in a better outcome where we both say we don't agree, but we care about each other, and we care about whether or not we hurt one another. That's important.
Mhm.
So I'm glad you threw it in there and mixed it up. Like, that's
Because this
great.
is what, to me, it's like, well, let's get out ahead of what kicks us out of alignment with our imagination. Let's just be real about what is the problem. The problem is that there's real hurt. There's real hurt that's nagging at our imaginations and making it scrambly, up there and hard to
Exactly.
think positive. So let's address the real stuff.
Yeah.
But let's realize that it is addressable. These individual, one last thing, and then we'll play some improv games. I've also observed that we do ourselves such a disservice in our ability to imagine things positively when we fight with strangers on the internet. Stop fighting
Yeah.
with strangers on the internet, please, all of you. They might be robots, first of all. They might be AI fake accounts, first of all.
Yeah.
Second of all, even if they aren't, and you know that it's somebody, whatever, that you knew in college or in high school or whatever, please stop. Please stop. What you're doing is pushing each of you further into your existing perspectives.
Hmm.
Both of you walking away sure that you have an enemy. Both of you walking away sure our country is headed for civil war. When the reality is, I don't want anyone to feel more called out than they need to, but I want them to feel called out enough. The reality is, we are distracting ourselves from the conversations that could actually produce an ROI.
How about that?
We are avoiding the real conversations that are harder to have face to face with the
Yeah.
people in our real lives.
Mhm.
Save your energy for the real conversations that can restore relationships and give us a fighting chance
Ah,
at creating more peace.
how about that? Okay, you dropped the mic, but you got to pick it back up again.
Yep.
I love the improv in you. That's good. And some of the exercises, we're not going to do them all today, but they were fun, y'all. Some of the exercises or activities, I think we could call them activities. Some were individual, which Andrea just told us about, that you can do alone by yourself, get your imagination, your mindfulness in line. But there were some group activities that I found very fun. And I tend to be like, that's corny, because that's how I was raised. Everything was corny. And we had to be like, if it's not cool enough, we don't want to participate. But your activities were cool. They weren't corny. So I asked you to do a few, and I want you to kind of teach the audience, and y'all can do this with your family when you're visiting. You can do this with your classmates. You can do this at your job just to waste 2 minutes and get your imagination back in line and bring some joy into space. So start with whatever you want to, but I like them all. So
Let's do the book club game. I know you really like
man,
that one, and
it's my
that's
favorite.
yeah, that's yes, I remember. So, how the book club game works is that you open up your phone, you pull up your text messages. Um, ooh, I have such a good one. I normally have to scroll for a minute. So you scroll through your texts until you find some group of words, excuse me, that sound like a book title. So I have one that says, I will be watching. That sounds like a book title. So I would tell Dr. Toy, the title of the book is I Will, in all caps, be watching. So now she is going to tell me the genre of that book and a quick description of the book. So go ahead, Dr. Toy. I will be watching.
This is in the sci-fi section,
Mm.
and it is about a neighbor who creates robots with these huge eyes to watch all of the neighbors everywhere they go and everything that they do in their house, so they can see through the walls, the curtains, the blinds. And the robots are called I Spies. They will be watching everything the neighbors do.
So I love this. So this is an example of how the game works. You are given a book title, and then the next person gives the genre and the description. There's a couple ways you can play. So once one person gives the genre and description, it's very fun to have the next person give a genre and description a brand new idea. So you can see how different people do it. So if I hear I will be watching, will in all caps, I'm trying to think, okay, what's a totally different direction to take it? I am going to say this is a memoir of a father who had made some mistakes in his 20s and maybe was incarcerated and missed out on some of his son's life. And then he gets out and they restore this relationship. And he wants his son to know, like, I will be there for the rest of your milestones. I will be watching.
Ah, I love it. See how fun it is, y'all? And then you can
No,
pick another. Oh, go ahead. You're the
I was just
teacher.
saying, you keep it going. I want you to give a book title for me.
Okay. And so I use an actual text between you and I that says, no worries.
Okay. No Worries is about a fishing community in the Bahamas. And the fishing community is really frustrated with the banana boat industry because they scare all the fish away. And they have to learn how to work together because they realize we're all part of the tourism industry. No, fishing. No, they are. Because because it's improv. In this Bohemian town, both of the fishing community and the banana boat folks are all like, hey, same objective here. And so they work together to share the seas.
I love it. Do y'all see how you are not even thinking about what the issue is? Like, I have a ton of stuff to do today. I forgot all about it because I was too busy smiling all hard trying to think about no worries and the eyes and the spot. It's so good and it's so fun. Okay, we'll cut it there just so we have enough time to do one more. But do you see how you could go back and forth with your friend or whoever's in front of you? You go around in a circle. You can keep it going with the one book title and come up with 4 or 5 different descriptions. It's super fun. It's super fun. That's my favorite. What else you got?
So there's so many.
I know.
It's hard to pick, but since we're virtual, one of the games that I think works really well in the virtual environment is fortunately, unfortunately. So we'll start. Do you want to be
Good one.
fortunately or do you want to be unfortunately since we're in a 2-player game?
Okay, so I'll say fortunately, I,
Okay.
fortunately, I found this ring on the street and it is totally my style.
Unfortunately, it was used in a bank heist, and the knob on the top is really a laser.
Fortunately, I was locked out of my house this morning. It's freezing cold outside. And I discovered this laser can cut right through the keyhole, and I got inside.
Unfortunately, the laser was so powerful that it damaged a wall in your house.
Fortunately, I've been needing to knock that wall out for years and expand the living room into the kitchen. I actually love it.
Unfortunately, when you took the wall out, you discovered termites.
Oh, do you see how we could go back and forth? Like, it's so fun and it makes you laugh. It's like, okay, now what are we going to do with the termites? you
And
know?
can I point out too that you naturally did this. But sometimes I have to coach people when they're playing this game to realize we're still yes anding each other. So when you said, you know, fortunately, I found this ring on the street, I didn't say, unfortunately, you immediately had to give it back.
right.
Like, unfortunately, then you lost it immediately. Like, no, you don't have the ring. So we're still acknowledging, yes, this happened. And we're just adding something that moves the story forward. So it's this practice of no matter what, even if you're the unfortunately person, you're not negating what exists, you're still building on top of it.
You're saying life can go on. We can make something out of this, even if it keeps going back to unfortunately. And
Yeah.
I like it because it kind of forces me to look at the positive no matter what you throw to me. Like the last thing you said is termites, they eat up everything. But then I was like, fortunately, like I automatically thought like the termites can dig a hole under the, now I'm thinking of something useful for the termites to do. And
Mm-hmm.
I love in this game that you can switch and give me unfortunately, and I can be mischievous and think it's very fun to sabotage everything you throw my way. And you're like, yeah, but I can find a positive swing in anything you throw my way. So now I'm switching and my mind is being creative and imagining. And
Well,
sometimes the impossible, like I'm just imagining.
and what I love about what you're saying is that, like, when you're the fortunately person, you're not trying to figure out, like, okay, well, how is it fortunate? Um, what am I trying to say? You're not you're still just not negating anything. It's still like adding on, like, oh, it's I wanted to get rid of that wall anyway. It's okay. So we're remodeling the house now. It's not about feeling like, oh, something that happened wasn't unfortunate. It's just like, well, good thing it's improv. And the next thing that happens can be positive. Because it wouldn't be positive to just have a wall in your house that's been destroyed by lasers and have to
Right.
accept, but
exactly.
and this
Yeah.
is the thing that I think we forget when our imaginations go to Disasterville. Really, what's happening is we're forgetting the value and the power of our and.
Beautiful. I love this time with us. we got to close it out because you and I could keep playing all day and not get
Yeah, we
anything
could.
done.
I got 6 more games.
But we got so much done in this little bit of time. I find it like a treasure. I love when you say life is improv. I find myself using that all the time to remind myself that it doesn't have to follow this perfect script. That's what it means to me. You know, but being a person that plans everything and this is how it needs to look, and I imagine it to be this way and it's going to be awesome. I allow myself to say, in my imagination, there are going to be some things that I didn't plan, but it's okay. Even if it's a negative thing, it's okay because it's part of life and life is improv. And guess what? I can do something with that negative situation. I might even look at it as it's not negative, it's a learning experience. It's an
Mhm.
opportunity for me to learn something new. So I love the mind shift. I love the social worky stuff we put in there. I love the science and the CBT things that are twirled in there and the MI and all of that. It's so useful. I'm so grateful to have this brainchild in my life. And I wanted to bring her to you, Healing Overflow with Dr. Toy Family. Thank you, Andrea, for being here and teaching us these things. This is so valuable and so wonderful.
It's such an honor to be here, and I just wanna say if anybody from your community would like to get my Monday morning notes of encouragement, I send them out every Monday morning, notes inspired by mindful improv thinking for how we can be brave with our lives and with our leadership. And if you want to get those, I've provided you the link that you can send out to the community where folks can sign up for that.
Click below and sign up. I sign up. I get them every week and I read them. And it's a short read. You don't need a whole lot of time, but it gives you a little like punch in the arm, gives you a little something to fuel and to go on. Andrea, if people want to be a part of like breath and imagination, if they want to get in a class, or if they want to be taught any of these things, can you tell them how to do that with you?
Absolutely. So I've also provided you with the link to my website, thecmit.com. Again, that stands for the Center for Mindful Improv Thinking. So we have a variety of trainings that you can make available to your people. If you join the Mindful Improv community, I do occasionally offer workshops for those within the community. But the primary way that we function at the Center for Mindful Improv Thinking is going into events or organizations and companies and providing training to leadership and to staff for brave communication in all of its forms, everything from harassment to giving and receiving difficult feedback to anticipating other people's emotional response and learning how to position your message differently so that it's receivable. Um, yeah, so we provide all kinds of trainings. Why not start in the office? We spend so much time at work. Why not let that be the training ground for peace building behavior?
Absolutely. Andrea does so much. Some of the things that she offers free, some of it has a fee, some of it's a sliding scale, some you'll get discounted depending on who you are. It's really affordable, and the free stuff you really can afford. So check out our website, click down below, get all the information. It's worth it. Thank you so much again for being here, Andrea. It's been my pleasure. Healing Overflow, I hope that you learned a lot and took it in and stuffed your backpack full of tools to use over the next coming weeks, months, heck, years. Like you can keep doing this stuff for a lifetime. I want you to continue to keep in touch with me. Email me if you have a question for Ask a Therapist. Keep watching, keep listening, and thank you so much for tuning in today to Healing Overflow with Dr. Toy. I'm Dr. Toy. I care about y'all. I love y'all. I love when you pull up to my table and listen. Thank you so much for sharing because you know, as your healing overflows, it overflows onto everyone around you. Keep healing, y'all, and see you next time. Bye.
Bye.